So this whole unit's about making the connections between real-life scenarios, graphs, equations, and tables, so that we can use equations to represent real-life scenarios and be able to make predictions to future outcomes. So the last unit, you could really see those connections in real life. Here we graduate to just more of the mathematics behind it and being able to use those mathematics to better describe linear relationships and connections in data in the real world. So while you'll see some questions are real life questions, others are just pure math questions that are setting us up for other scenarios. So an example here, we're just looking at equations and graphs just to practice those connections. So in the first one, you see the equation is y equals 1/3 x minus 4. Can anyone tell me what the slope is for that one? Sorry, I thought I maybe heard someone's answer. The slope for the first one here.
Would it be 1/3?
Yeah, that's right. So remember, all of these are going to be in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, and so the slope is going to be the part in front of the x, the coefficient in front of the x, and the y-intercept is going to be the number at the end. So in this particular question, you can see the 1/3 is the slope. So m is 1/3. And then what's the y-intercept going to be? There's the y-intercept. Don't be shy.
Would it be -4?
That's right. So the slope is -4. Okay. So now how do we graph that? So the y-intercept is kind of like the flat rate. It's where the line begins. And we're going to go to the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is this part. Okay. So this is the y-axis. Okay. I'm just going to erase that. So we're going to go to -4. So we're going to go down to -4. And that's our y-intercept. And from there, we're going to go and do this slope here. And so the slope is 1/3. So that means the rise is 1 and the run is 3. So from this point, we're going to go up 1 spot or 1 square and to the right 3 squares to get a new point. And there you see it on your screen. And then we can now draw a line connecting those 2 points. So I'll just try my best here to draw a straight line. That's not bad. And then we've got y equals 1/3 x minus 4. Okay. Any questions with that one?
Nope.
Okay, good. So let's move on to the next one then. Here we're looking at y equals -2x plus 5. Can someone tell me what the slope of this one is?
-2.
That's right. And the slope, or the y-intercept?
+5.
5.
+5. Excellent. Good. And like I said, don't be afraid to just shout out answers. If you're talking over somebody, don't be embarrassed about that. It's all good. All right. So this time we're going to start at +5. Oh, sorry. I just fucked something up here. Just go back. There we go. All right. So this time we're going to start at +5, which is going to be up on the axis in between the 4 and the 6. So there we are at +5. And if we have a slope of -2, what fraction is -2?
-2/1.
That's right. Good. So that means our rise is negative and our run is +1. So from there, we're going to go down 2. So down 2 and over 1 to get our second point. Now, if it helps you when you're graphing these, you can do the same step a couple of times, so you have a couple of points to do it. So from there, I could go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And I think last time we had a meet, someone was saying how their dad was talking about how you use these for stairs, and you can literally see the stairs there for the slope. Okay, so all of these little spots are all points on the line. And now we try our best to draw a straight line, which is not bad. There we go. Try not to get amazed by my amazing artistic abilities. It's very, very impressive, I know. Okay. So there we have a graph of negative 2x plus 5. Now, you've had lots of chance to play around with Desmos, so you probably are getting used to seeing these, but any chance you can try to draw these. You did an activity last week where you were using Google Slides to do these. Okay, very quickly, the last two, y equals negative 2. What's the slope of that?
Undefined?
Could be.
No, 0. Sorry.
0? Okay, that's right.
No.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is 0. Okay, and the way we remember this is this one looks like a y equals mx plus b a little bit, right? It kind of looks like these other two because it starts with y equals. This one does not. This one starts with x equals. It's the weird one. Okay, so that's where this one's going to have a slope that's undefined. This one, actually, we could imagine it as this, 0x minus 2. Okay, because 0x would actually would scratch that out and you would just get the negative 2. Okay, so that means it is a slope of negative 2. So we're just going to go straight to negative 2 on the y-axis because it says y equals. So y equals negative 2. And anywhere on this graph is going to be y equals negative 2. Anywhere. It doesn't matter what the x value is. Any x value is going to be negative 2, which means my line is just going to be a horizontal line like this. And remember, that has a slope of 0. You would do 0 skiing with this. You would just sit there as opposed to the other one. Okay? So if this is a horizontal line, y equals negative 2, what do we think x equals 1 is going to look like?
Undefined, then?
That's
it
right.
Would just be a straight line.
That's right. Undefined vertical line straight up. And where is it? Well, it's at x equals 1. So we go to the x-axis this time and we put it at 1. And every value, no matter what your y value is, you're always going to have a bunch of x equals 1s. And so you get a vertical line here, and the slope here is undefined. Oh, that's awful. There's my awful writing of undefined. But we have x equals 1 is straight up and down. Y equals negative 2 is left and right. Okay? Before I move on to the next slide, does there anyone have any questions?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Maddie's speaking for the whole crowd. I love it. Okay. But don't be shy if you do, okay? I will never be upset if you think that you're interrupting me. You're not. Okay. So let's just look at this next one really quickly. You don't need to write any of this down. I will actually send this file to you if you want these notes for yourself. You can have it. I'll send it to you afterwards. So in this one, we've got a limo A charges $150 for the day plus $50 per hour for the driver. Limo B charges $25 an hour for the driver and $300 for the day. So can someone unmute themselves and tell me what they think the equation is for limo A?
So 150 for the day plus 500. The equation for so
Would it be 50x plus 150?
Okay, it sounded like someone said 50x plus 150. Do other people agree?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Okay, I just sort of mucked up my screen again, but we'll see if this works. Okay, all right. So I heard y equals 50x plus 150. So even though the order is backwards, this is the thing that's going to change, right? The 150 is the flat rate. It stays that way. But the $50 is going to change depending if you have 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That's why it's the one with the X in it. Excellent. And then can someone tell me what limo B would be? It's $25 an hour and $300 fee.
Would it be
Y
25x
equals
plus 300?
Sorry, yeah. That's okay. Chloe, go ahead. I think Kendra had it set in the background
that's
too.
right. I was just gonna say y equals 25x plus 300.
Yes, good.
Exactly what Madison said.
Yes, good. Yeah. And again, don't be afraid talking over top of each other. It's kind of weird here, but good job. So yeah, that's right. The $25 an hour is going to change, but this one has a much higher per rate charge. So now we could go off and graph this, but I'm going to cheat and use Desmos here. So if you look at your screen instead of the Jamboard now, you'll be able to see that I've got that same graph that we have there, and I have the two equations. So the 50 plus 5x, oh, I got my colors backwards. Make this one blue so it matches our Jamboard. And then this one, I'll make green so it matches our Jamboard. Okay, so 50x plus 150, and then 225x plus 300. So obviously, if you're going for a short limo ride, or you need to rent the limo for only a couple hours, this blue graph, the limo A is cheaper because it has that flat rate. But eventually, it starts to get too expensive because you're paying $50 an hour instead of $25. And that's where limo B, even though you have a big flat rate, because it's only $25 an hour, it's less eventually. And so we get to this intersection point. Can anyone read that off the graph and tell me what the intersection point is?
450.
Yep, 450 is the Y value. Good. And how many hours would that be?
6.
Yes, good. And then remember on Desmos, I can actually click on it to get that 6, and 450 is the spot that we'd want. So that means that for 6 hours, they both charge $100 or $450. So then we have our recommendation. I can write that back on the Jamboard. So let me go back to the Jamboard here. So 6 and, oops. 6 and 450. Okay, we won't worry about the graph. We've seen that. And it means that they both charge the same $450 for 6 hours. Okay. And now I've cut myself off here to write my recommendation. So I'm going to just write my recommendation over the graph, and I'll fix that after. So remember the what advice would you give? I tried to stress that in this case, don't actually pick one of the companies. Let the person you're giving the advice to do the decision. All you're going to say is, it depends. So which company is cheapest at the beginning? So which company is cheapest at the beginning?
The blue line?
Yeah, the blue line. So that's the 150. You can see it here too. It has the smaller flat rate. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper at the beginning. So if
What do you think?
you need
Nice try, quick escape.
if you need less than 6 hours,
Get him.
pick limo A, and more than 6 hours, pick limo B. How's that for nice writing? Okay. But I was pretty impressed with how you guys did in the Desmos activity, where you were saying it depends, and then if you need less than, pick one, more than, pick the other. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Questions for that guy? I will tidy. Okay, I will tidy that up when I print this note out for you, but at least we've got that set. Okay, great. I think we just have 2 more questions, and that'll be it. So in the first one here, it says express in slope y-intercept form to figure out the slope of the y-intercept. So does anyone remember what we call this type of equation? It's from this week. Okay, so this one is called standard form. Okay, so these are both in standard form. Okay, they're different than y equals mx plus b. So this was, I think, on Monday's lesson. So standard form, helpful for some things, not helpful for others. If we're trying to figure out the slope of this line, really hard to tell what the slope is in this form. Okay, y equals mx plus b is much better for finding slope and y-intercepts. Okay, but when we move on to our next question, when we do x and y-intercepts, standard form's easier. Okay, so y equals mx plus b is much easier. So this was the one that we did on graspable math. So I'm going to go over here and just do it over on this spot, so you can remind ourselves how we can go from this form into y equals mx plus b. So to do this, we're going to divide both sides by all these. We want the y by itself. So if you remember, you could push shift and click on the 3 and the x, take this and drag it to the other side. And this is the brilliant part of this program, is it does the math for us. The opposite operation to adding 3x is to subtract 3x. What's the opposite operation of minus 6?
Plus 6.
That's right. And so if I just grab this and drag it over, you will see it does the opposite operation and goes plus 6. Okay? And now this is in y equals mx plus b form now. Now we can read off the slope and the y-intercept. Can someone tell me what the slope for this guy is?
-3.
3 over 1.
Yeah. Yes, good. -3 or -3 over 1. Excellent. Both are equally correct. Good. So there's -3. I think if I even typed in -3 over 1, it would convert it to, let's try that. 3 over 1. It would say, yeah, oh, it would click on this, and then if I clicked on it, it would change to -3. Great. And what's the y-intercept for this guy?
6.
Yes, good. So if I click on that, change this to 6, we have that question done. Okay. Now, in this one, we might have been able to look at it and been able to predict what the slope was, but it's not obvious. So a lot of people guess that the slope of this one is 3 because they just look in front of the x, but it's not 3 until it's in the proper form. So when it's in y equals mx plus b, then you can predict what the slope is. Here, you'll see that it's not actually 3, it's -3. Same with the y-intercept. It's not helpful until it's in y equals mx plus b form. That becomes really important when we do this question here. It's very difficult to predict what the slope is when it's in this form. Okay, and a lot of people guess that it's 4, but it's not 4. Let's find out. So we're going to do the same thing. We need to put it in y equals mx plus b form. So if I push shift and hold this, I take that 4x, I do the opposite operation, which is subtract 4. All right, so now it's a -4x. And this -20, the opposite of, to isolate for that, we got to do the opposite operation, which is add 20. And we were doing things like adding 20 to both sides or dragging it across, and it changes it to plus 20. Is this in y equals mx plus b form yet?
No.
No, because it's got the 5y. So we have to take the 5 and divide now. Since it's 5 times y, the opposite operation is divide both sides. I think I'll do it the other way as well, just to remind ourselves. So remember, you would go divide 5, and you would see that opposite operation here. Of course, this works out to just 5. And then each of these terms gets divided by 5. 4 divided by 5 is not an easy number. You end up with a decimal. And in fact, if I click on it, it'll shake and say, no, I don't want to change that. I'm going to leave it as 4 over 5. But 20 over 5 does reduce nicely to 4. Okay, so I'll just move this up so you can see. Divide this by 4, or 5, excuse me, is just a fraction. But this divided by 5 does get you 4. And now it's in y equals mx plus b form. So what's the slope? Excellent. Oh, positive or negative? Yes.
Negative.
Great. And you notice I don't write the x there. Okay, the x is the part of the equation. The slope is just the number. And then the y-intercept?
4.
4.
Yes. Excellent. And I don't even have to put plus 4. I wonder what happens if I put plus 4. I think it'll probably just say 4. Good. Okay. So that was the standard form that we did. And give me a thumbs up if you liked this graspable math, or was it difficult to use?
See, I liked it. I find it more easy.
Okay, good. Good. And like I said, I just discovered it, and I think it really does a nice job of showing some algebra steps. So I've just included all those steps that we just did on graspable math, so it's on this Jamboard. So if you want to use this later on, you can. By the way, you'll see questions here. This is just if you want more practice. I am not expecting you to do any more work this week. This is just if you wanted more practice, you could go to that question. Okay, so like there's here on page 352, there's another question you could practice, but I'm not expecting you to do that or hand that in. All right, last question of the day, X and Y intercepts. So I know you did this on the Jamboard too, but I'm going to do it on, you did this on graspable math, but I'm going to do it right here. So the X and Y intercepts, we discovered from the Desmos activity that the X intercept is when Y equals 0. So if I'm going to write that down, I'm going to write that heading down, X intercept, Y equals 0. Okay. And does anyone remember what happens then in my next step when Y equals 0?
Do you just exclude the Y and
That's
like that whole
right.
part? Right?
Yes, that's right. And you saw that in the video, that this becomes a 0, and 6 times 0 is 0, and so it's like you're covering that up with your thumb. Okay? And so the line underneath is 3x equals 24. Okay? That's going to be the equation that's going to get us the x-intercept. And so if I wanted to actually do this, then what's my next step?
You then divide
By
3.
Excellent. And x equals 8. That means the x-intercept is 8. Okay. How about the y-intercept? When does the y-intercept happen?
Same with the x-intercept. Don't you just cover up the y, not y, but you just ignore the x and just.
That's right. Good. And the reason we can ignore the x is because this becomes a 0. And so this part disappears, and we're just left then with the 6y equals 24. Divide both sides by. What do I divide both sides by?
6.
Yep. Thanks, Jesse. Jesse put it in the chat, which is great. Yeah, divide both sides by 6, and I think that's 4 then. All right, good. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer in this one. Would anyone like to try? Well, we'll just do someone doing the X-intercept first. Anyone like to try the X-intercept for this one from scratch? Chloe seems to be the only one who's speaking here.
Sure.
All right, Chloe. All right, you're doing great. All right, so what's
Okay.
my title for the X-intercept?
So we're doing the X-intercept, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it'd be X-intercept Y equals 0.
Perfect. And then I like how
And
you
then-
said you kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
And then-
scratch. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. And then once you get that, you do 2x minus 10, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Which equals 0. And then do you add 10 first, or do you...
Perfect. Yep. No, you're right. Go with your gut there. So this is how we would have written it in class, if you remember. I would have said plus 10 plus 10. So the 2x equals what?
That would be 10 then.
Right.
Just not 10.
Right. Excellent. And now what?
And then you would divide by 2, and then that would equal 5 for the X-intercept.
Perfect. Well done. Good job, Chloe. Okay, I need another volunteer who wants to try the Y-intercept. Look at all these awesome people. Come on, I know someone wants to try it. Sorry, Madison, was that you? Sorry, I thought I heard you talking, Madison. Even though you're muted.
I don't think
Really?
that was me.
No, I thought it
don't know.
was. Madison,
hearing
how are you
things.
doing? I heard you wanted to do the Y-intercept. Come on, I'll walk you through it.
Okay.
Awesome, you're awesome. Okay, so Y-intercept, what's my title? Y-intercept is when...
So then it would be. I don't even know.
Okay, that's all right. Let's look at the example we did over here before. So the Y-intercept is when what happens?
X equals
Yeah,
0?
exactly. Have you had a chance to look at this video yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, that's...
I haven't been home this week.
Yeah.
So
No, that's cool. Okay. So that's totally fine. I'll just show you on a little graph here what you'll see in the video. Okay. So
Okay.
the Y-intercept, let's pretend this is the line. Okay.
Okay.
The Y-intercept is where it crosses right there. What's the X value for that point that I just colored in?
0.
Yeah. And then if I had like a different line down here, there's a Y-intercept. You see how the X is 0 again?
Yeah.
And all of them, doesn't matter what lines I draw, all of
Okay.
those Y-intercepts are going to have X equals 0.
Okay.
Okay. So I know I put you in a corner here, but you're going to do great. Okay. All right. So because the X is 0, watch what happens here. Okay. So I'm going to put in 0 for X. You see that?
Yeah.
What's 2 times 0?
0.
Yeah. So it's as if this thing disappears.
Okay.
Okay. So if that disappears, because technically it does because it's a 0, what are you left with?
Just X.
Sorry, the X is gone. What are you left with?
5y minus 10.
Yes. Very nice. Negative 5y minus 10 equals 0. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's try and do the same steps that we did over here in red. So
Okay.
we're going to solve for this. If you have a minus 10, what's the opposite operation?
Plus 10.
Good. Okay. So that's going to leave me with a negative 5y equals what?
Plus 10.
Yes. And then what do I divide both sides by to get y by itself?
5.
Is it 5 or
10. No, it's 10.
No, it's 5. I'm just sort of getting at. It's not just 5.
Negative 5.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I got to be picky there, right? And so now it's a positive 10 divided by a negative 5 is what?
Plus 5.
Sorry, you're dividing.
Oh,
What's 10 divided by 5?
2.
Yeah. And if it's a positive divided by a negative?
Then it's a negative.
Right. Excellent. Good job. Sorry, Maddie, to put you on the spot there. You did great.
Okay, thanks.
Especially without watching the video. You haven't had a chance to watch this video, so that was good. Okay. All right. So that's a little review of the main stuff that we've done this week. I will allow, I'm going to make a PDF of this to share with others and yourself, and you can have that for your notes. There's nothing more you need to do other than the regular math work that you're working on this week. So let's just pull this up. Oh. So here's our classwork. Okay, so hopefully you tried some of the Desmos things like marble slides on Monday, just fun, or sorry, Tuesday, just fun stuff. There's the standard form that we just did, example 3, and there's the X and Y intercepts that we just did as well. Okay, so that will hopefully give you a chance to practice that stuff. This is the only stuff that you're handing in for this week. You don't have to hand anything in for this review day. Okay. If you have any other questions, though, don't be afraid to stay on here, and you can ask me any questions you want. Okay. But if you think you understood those questions, then no need to stick around. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.